Thank you very much, Ben Kitili from the constituency of Kasipul. Indeed, we are at the tallying center. This is the St. Bakita Siakago Girls in Mbeere North constituency. And tallying of votes has started here. We have a total of 134 polling stations whose results we'll be waiting for throughout the night up until that time when the IEBC's returning officer, John Kenyu, announces who wins and who the people of Mbeere will have elected, or Mbeere North in particular, will have elected to go to parliament. But so far we have results from two polling stations that have been read out, and from those two polling stations whose results have been tallied here at the tallying center is that UDA's Leo Wamuthende Njeru is leading with 57 votes, and of course followed by DP Democratic Party's Newton Kariuki Ndwega with 45 votes. Of course, the other candidates also garnering votes here. The third is Duncan Ireri Mbui of Chama cha Kazi. He has so far from the two polling stations 12 votes. We also have Ruben Muriithi Njeru with 1 vote, as well as Lawrence Moneki Ireri with 1 vote. The rest of the candidates: Isaac Ngeri Murengi, Albert Muremi Ngare, Daniel Ireri Ngare, and Simon Mwaura Waiharo from the two polling stations have not gotten any vote. So from two polling stations so far, whose total valid votes are actually 116. So polling stations with very few people, and that explains why those results are amongst the very first results to arrive at the tallying center. The very first polling station had very few people, and we've seen the two of them now having 116 total valid votes. And that is why I repeat the numbers from the two. Leo Wamuthende of UDA leading with 57 votes, and of course followed closely by Newton Kariuki Ndwega, that is Newton Karish of the DP party, of 045 votes. But aside from the results, it is important that we mention to the country what we witnessed here in Mbeere North immediately after polls closed, and when the counting of votes started at the various polling stations. It was an evening filled with chaos here in Mbeere North, especially at the Siakago Social Hall, where we saw a group of unknown people come armed with some of them carrying sticks and seeking to actually access that particular polling station. This did not happen. The police were able to thwart that particular attempt, but of course even the locals came out to say they will be protecting the votes. And up until the night, by the time we were coming to the tallying center, there were running battles throughout Siakago Center amongst rival groups. But also, it is also important to mention that I personally found myself trapped at one of the polling stations, and that is Yetiburi polling station, a primary school not too far from here, and that is a primary school from which Cabinet Secretary Geoffrey Rocco earlier on cast his ballot. We went there immediately after the votes closed, and at the time when polling or counting of votes was starting, and the situation we found there was an uncontrollable situation in terms of the people who had come out. Tens and tens of people armed and surrounding that particular polling station. It is also important to note that I saw at that particular polling station motorbikes being set ablaze in excess, or about 5 motorbikes at that particular time. And there was a stern warning on us, the entire team that we were with, our colleagues on the Daily Nation and the NTV, not to even dare capture whatever was happening, not to dare go to the rooms, the room where this particular counting was happening. And eventually we had to exit that particular station through the police officers who are there. But for a moment at Yetiburi polling station, the entire team there was sort of trapped and could not do anything, just there to witness with your own eyes, not record, not using a camera, not using a phone, even as mayhem rocked that particular polling station. But we shall be checking how it is across the constituency, the 134 polling station. It is indicated to us by the returning officer that we could be having about 60% voter turnout. So we are speaking about roughly 33,000 voters out of the 55,124 registered voters. Quite an impressive turnout, considering that this is is a by-election. Remember, the history with by-election has always been about 30% of voters turning out to cast their ballot. But here the indication is about 33,000 voters, 60%. And we'll be looking, even as the results are announced, to see where it is they came out to vote, who it is they voted for. So far, of the 2 polling stations, we can report, because these are the official results from the IEBC, 2 polling stations, Leo Muthende of UDA leading, of course, followed by the Democratic Party's Newton Kariuki. And these results will be streaming from now up until the last minute, when the returning officer will be announcing the winner. It is also important, very, very briefly, to mention that Commissioner of IEBC, that is Professor Adwal, is here, as well as the CEO of the Commission, Marjan Hussein Marjan. They have been here throughout the process, and they're actually seated in this particular room, even as tallying at the Chicago Girls School continues. So for now, we cross over to the constituency of Malava, where my colleague Duncan Haemba is and has been following the vote process and now vote counting and even tallying that is ongoing there. Haemba, good evening. What is happening in Malava?